too.
Right. So instead of having that clearance test report to provide, you can either have this proof that it's lead-free, obviously, that satisfies the requirement, and then this, which is way too complicated, and my apologies, don't know how else to do shorthand on this. But if you've got, let's say, a property with annual turnover, let's say it's student housing or something, this would be handy for that situation, for an owner who already has tested it 3 times within a 7-year period, as long as the tests were 12 months apart from each other at minimum. So then they would be able to submit those 3 reports and not have to do a new one, as long as they have no not subject to any housing code violations or DDOE enforcement orders. Okay, so now we get into stuff that may or may not be of interest, so let me know if I should just go through these quickly. I just wanted to include them because I thought they could very easily be relevant. So the overarching theme really is about the renovation, repair, and painting rule. Are most of you familiar with that? This is like the very groundbreaking, far-reaching rule of EPA. Came out in 2008, became effective 2 years later, 2010, and it's called RRP for short. That's the Renovation, Repair, and Painting Rule. Basically, it's triggered when you've got a plumber, an electrician, anybody who comes into a home, is hired to do some work in a home, and that work disturbs paint. It's pre-78 property. Then that triggers the rule, and there are all kinds of requirements that are basically reflected in our regulations. So that's what I meant, that the overarching theme in the regs is we took the EPA, the federal law, which applies to us anyway, and repeated that in the rules. So you'll see in our rules provisions that may be familiar to you already. It includes pre-renovation education and documentation thereof, and that too is something that our staff will be looking for when they do audits after renovation has occurred.
No, okay. Pierre, if I may, just for the room, on all that we're talking about now is when an owner of a property decides to do renovation to that property.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm just trying to figure out the next step. So when a real estate agent, realtor, the difference, there is a difference, then comes along to sell or potentially, but they're not part of this transaction regulatory process. It's the renovator, the property owner, renovator, and the contractor.
That's correct. And
okay.
The reason I include these is because so often agents are, making recommendations. Hey, you may want to renovate this bathroom.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
This is something they should, be aware of and maybe communicate to the owner.
Understood, and we're happy to hear it. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know where there might have been realtor or real estate agent liability. Right now, it's the property owner and the contractor.
Yes. Okay. So I mentioned already the very detailed set of let's say work practices. That's within RRP. We basically cut and pasted in our regulations. So it's the federal law that's repeated in our regulations. Likewise, under RRP, there's use of certified personnel required when a quote-unquote renovation is taking place, and the term renovation is the federal definition, and it's repeated in our regulations, so you have it in your materials.
6 square feet of interior, 20
well,
square feet exterior.
Okay, hold on. That's not correct for us. So we strengthened, I think in the previous slide I said that we repeated and we strengthened RRP. So in some ways, very few, but that's one of them. It's not the 6 square feet. We decided that it made sense to give it the same de minimis standard that HUD has in its lead guidance. So that is 2 square feet.
Yep.
So 2 square feet is, if you're doing more than 2 square feet of paint disturbance, it triggers the renovation provisions in our regulations. Yes.
So as a listing agent, I'm going to a property owner and he says, well, I'm gonna, change out the windows, I'm gonna do this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's up to me as a listing agent to let them know that this rule is in place. But when I go to actually get the signature and put it on the market, how do I know he actually used a license?
You don't.
Well,
Contract.
personally, I don't believe that's your responsibility.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good.
The listing agreement is jurisdictional, then
You've done your due diligence by
I just
notifying them
announced
of
it.
their,
Okay.
responsibility.
probably better than that.